This is the Wheel of Time Spoilers podcast.
Well, first of all, do we want to do an introduction?
Yeah. Hi, everyone. We're back. It's been weird, but we have a guest.
Hi.
This is John Elgen. John has helped me through so much of the podcast. You were there in the beginning when me and Patrick were together in a room and we had echoes on each other's microphones, and it was because we were in the same room, and you know, I don't know how other podcasters get rid of it, but the way we got rid of it is, you know, for the first episode or two or few, I went in and deleted it manually, and I was like, this is an incredible amount of work. It's really slowing down my production speed, and that's when we were making a ton of episodes, even though they were short. And John reached out and basically said, hey, I would do that for you. And so for the first 440 episodes, I think, I sent you the files first. You went in and did a first pass edit on them and then sent them back to me. And I think it became less of an issue when we moved to separate rooms and we didn't have the echo, but still, you know, you removed a lot of the ums and the uhs and just really, really helped out with the editing in the beginning.
Yeah, I messed up a few at the beginning, but we got there in the end.
I mean, that's, oh my God. Anytime I work with an editor or anybody else, you know, there's always just messed up file formats. And that's back in the days when, like, I mean, again, we're talking 7 years ago. Oh my God, how long is the podcast been on the air?
This was before, when I started editing for you, we were using just Adobe Audition. I was using to help. But this was before Creative Cloud came along. Yeah. So this was specific programs and, yeah.
I mean, just back, I really do feel like it was the Wild West of podcast times when it was just, you know, the only people out there were people with some real technical skills because it was not easy.
Yeah, even in my line of work where we were helping people record podcasts for academic purposes, it was throw mud and see what sticks kind of situation.
Sure. Tell me more about what you do in the academic field and you know, fill people in on your background and stuff like that.
I work at a local university in London, in West London, and I am an AV technician. So my bread and butter is making sure that everyone's got a projector and a computer to use for their lectures. But underneath that, we help create content for people to show during their lectures and to put out to students to watch beforehand or after. We also help with events and things like that. And a big part of that is creating, was not so much now, but not since the pandemic. Pre-pandemic, a lot of it was creating podcasts and vodcasts. Since then, since the pandemic, the technology has exploded and people can really do a lot of stuff themselves from their desk. Microphones and cameras have just got so much cheaper since people got stuck at home.
and people have a reason to have them on hand anyway. And so, whereas before, I feel like people really needed a special reason to have a good mic. And now it's like, well, my Zoom calls, right? Like,
yeah, exactly. I mean, we've got to a point now where my work has got rid of, we used to have videographers and a couple of photographers at the university specifically for helping record stuff and do photography. As the years have gone on, they've all retired and they just haven't bothered renewing them. The line is now, well, iPhones are good enough to record things on. Just do it yourself kind of thing. You don't necessarily need people to do it for you anymore unless you want something really fancy, like with titles and star wipes.
So once again, computers coming for our jobs, basically, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
Getting to the actual point of today's episode, which is, again, as I said, a double header, we are going to start with a cup of coffee because it's very, very short.
It's really an espresso.
He really is an espresso, though. It is described as like a little tiny, like,
right. And
shot of espresso.
That's what I love. Yeah, their cup of coffee is the way they describe it. It's like cooked under pressure. Like they're making espresso in
or it's
drinking
at least
in a
Turkish coffee. Like
yeah,
it's at
something
least
like
Turkish
that.
coffee.
Yeah.
And it means a lot to them as well. I mean, the guy, he says at the end, I don't know why the guy was so surprised that I was polite to him. He gave me calf.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
It's like, I'm polite. Like,
Which I do want to talk about that. Like, I feel like the relationship between the two is not exactly how Virat Karede is portraying it, right? Like, or is Karede just like really a threat and doesn't realize it? Anyway, let's get into it.
Yeah, let's just get on into it.
Virat Karede pressed his gauntleted fists into his heart, returning the sentry salute, and ignored the fact the man spat as he rode past. He hoped the 80 men and the 21 Ogier behind him ignored it too. They had better. He was here for information, and a killing would make getting it a lot more difficult. Since his manservant, a Jimbora, had planted his knife in a standard bearer's heart over a perceived insult to his master, in truth, a real insult, but a Jimbora should have held his temper the way he held himself had. Since then, he had taken to leaving the wiry little hill tribesmen in the forest with the Soldam and the Damane, and some of the guards to watch over the pack horses when he entered the camp. He had come a long way from Ebadar chasing the wind, almost 4 weeks of hearing after rumours, until news brought him here to this camp on the east of central Atara. Sorry, I'm not too good with the readings.
It's totally fine.
Well, thank you for doing that.
Thank you. Yeah, that was really great.
I appreciate how hard it is. Someone who used to edit these things. I just
No, it's a skill.
yeah,
It's a skill. It takes practice, and it's amazing how much the editing can pull out a lot of the mistakes.
And in fairness, that was one of the most like twisty Jordan-y paragraphs.
It was very twisty.
Like there's
Jordan-y.
a lot
Yeah.
of like nested meanings and like implied parentheticals, and it's just very Jordanian. So
well, you get and then you come across hyphenated words like hill tribesman, which
right. Like since when was that a word?
Which, by the way, has two adjectives in front of it. It's not just like hill tribesman; it's wiry little hill tribesman. So it's like, yeah, okay, drowning in. You've got at least 3 descriptors there.
Yeah,
4 really, if you want to say wiry little hill and tribe.
yeah.
it's a lot. It's just a lot. But yeah, so we've got opening shot on this character who is very imposing, very distinctive. We don't get a lot from him, but he makes the most of his page time.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, he's riding in with, what is it, like 80-something Ogier and...
80 regular human Deathwatch guards and 21 Ogier.
21 Ogier, that's right. Okay. Which is like, that's a lot. It's a force.
Yeah, that's like 100 elite soldiers.
Yeah, I was going to say about that 21 Ogier, there must be the Ogier gardeners, but the 21 of them, is that just because of his status, or is that just, do they just have that many that they can give every banner general?
Well, no,
Just that many?
this is the rescue crew. Right?
Of course it is.
This is the
the
SWAT team that's going to rescue Tuon. So this is how many he was able to bring.
So, yeah, these are the ones who are loyal to Tuon, right? Because they're, she has more than they're loyal to Karede. I think they're more loyal to Tuon. So when he said he wants, so that's why he's able to gather such, I believe, an imposing force.
Yeah, you see that in going forward when a couple of the Deathwatch guards, they get, I've forgotten their name now, Elbar's head, and they insist on presenting it to Tuon rather than to anybody else. It has to go to her rather than Karede.
Right, exactly. Well, I mean, Karede, it's Musenge, I think, is the one who's like, I want that guy's head. And then, him and Karede march in together and are like, here's the evidence. Let's get this Suroth bitch out of here. And Tuon's like, thank you, appreciate you. Love that from you.
What I love about this chapter is we actually get a little bit of the Sean Chan Ogier. We get so little information about them, but we get Haratha in this chapter, who is the sort of the spokesman for them. And we get just one sentence, right? Which is, after we rescue the High Lady, we can kill as many of them as need killing, Musenge. And that sentence tells you so much about the Sean Chan Ogier that just makes you go, oh, damn, these are not your mama's Ogier, right? Like, these are not the Ogier we have at home. These are bloodthirsty, willing to kill people for an insult Ogier. Like, their culture must be completely different. They must value different things. Like, it is such a statement on who they are and what they value.
Yeah, and there's actually a really good, I don't know how they've done it, but there's a really good picture on the WoTWiki of Horaratha, looking quite different from what you obviously see from Loyal or the Wetlands Ogier.
Well, they're wearing armor, which is just crazy. Like, I mean, it's like putting armor on a tank. Like, why? Like, it's already armored.
Right, yeah. So there's two interesting things in the second paragraph about that I was trying to pick apart. One is that he notices that there's no rockin' in the camp. Like, there's space for them in the camp layout, but they aren't there. And he hadn't seen one for some time because supposedly all had been sent west.
Yep.
Is that Perrin or is that the assault on the White Tower?
It's neither.
Oh.
It's Suroth is trying to pacify Terabon and Ituralda. That's from the prologue. If you go back to the prologue, she talks about how she wants all, she's like, so they're like 4 out of 5. No, 9 out of 10. I want them all going to attack Ituralda. I am sick of being attacked by this guy.
Okay. I didn't even remember that in the slightest. Thank you.
It took some research. Thank you, WoTWiki. No. Sorry. Encyclopedia Watt. Thank you. There's too many of you guys. They're all so helpful, but I pulled this one
You're
from
all helpful.
Encyclopedia Watt. Yeah. Encyclopedia Watt is my go-to, my first love, I will admit. Very good at presenting the facts without any opinions.
And then the other thing is that he notices that this entire contingent is all soldiers with armor from home, rather than the mix of local and Shanshan recruits, and I couldn't see a reason for why.
Don't they say later on, what's he called? The General Camelyn says later on that during the raids, during the attacks, they were losing Altarans and Teraboners, but he says that doesn't really matter.
Oh, right.
It's like he doesn't care that he's losing the locals.
So basically the locals are all dead.
Yeah.
Oh, and he just accidentally has made sure that they're always at the front and the Shanshan are at the back. And it's not bias. He swears it's not bias. He's not biased against the locals.
Yeah, exactly.
He's just racist. Okay. That makes an unfortunate amount of sense. Thank you.
For the same reason, all of the Dragonsworn in Perrin's camp didn't survive and weren't a lot left.
Yeah, Shanshan would be like that.
Mm-hmm.
They would be like that. All right, well.
What are you talking about? They were just happy. They were happy to be in the front.
Yeah.
They were doing it for the dragon.
And so, yeah. So as he walks through camp, they're just being insulted left and right, and he's saying, like, don't react to it. And it seems to be all around this rumor of the Death Watch Guard faking an empress. And they seem to be I think I didn't put that together before, but I was never like, what is going on? Like, they really do seem to be in disgrace for, quote unquote, faking and creating a fake Tuon. Is that sort of?
Yeah, exactly. It's the rumor that Semirog planted so that way there would be mistrust sown amongst Tuon's ardent supporters and the army would be more of a liability to her than not. And now everyone believes it, and it somehow gives them impunity to just spit at the Death Watch guards in general, because apparently now they're just gangsters like anybody else. I guess.
Trying to extort golden jewels. So there's a two-part to it, right? It seemed everyone believed the filthy tale of guards' involvement with a girl pretending to be the High Lord Tuon and extorting golden jewels from merchants, right? So it's like, step one, you're stealing you're just faking Empress so you can steal from golden jewels, right?
Right.
Line 2. Likely they believe that other whispered tale about the girl, not merely vile, but horrific. What? Like, I have no evidence.
Right. Well, and then the next line is that the High Lady was in danger of her life from the army went beyond horrific. But, like, I don't understand how that's a rumor. It seems like that's a fact that all these soldiers are demonstrating. It's very... I'm confused.
I think that second statement that the lady was in danger is him being like, I can't believe these people believe the false rumors, and that it's horrific. She's in danger.
Yeah, it feels a little twisty for me. Maybe, I don't know.
I feel part of it may be. I think you're right. I think you're right about this, about the reasons why they're looking angry. But I think part of it might be that when you've got someone like the Death Watch Guard constantly looking at people, especially when with the Seekers and all of them, and it just takes just a little rumor, just a little thing, to make you hate, show your hatred rather than your respect for them. And I feel maybe that's a little bit what's happening here, especially the open spitting. Like, Karede comes in and he says he hopes that nobody reacts to what's going on around them. But it's clear that in a normal situation, they would be reacting. If they weren't there to get information, all those people who were spitting and jeering would be probably dead because they insulted the Death Watch Guard, who are really just an extension of the Daughter of the Nine Moons or the Emperors. So maybe they just feel a little emboldened by some of the rumours that are going around that because the Death Watch Guards failed, they're not infallible anymore.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah, no, I think there's definitely that, like, insult at the Death Watch Guard. I just want to know what the rumors are that are circulating.
Right.
You know, what are the things that people are saying, right? Because he says one thing flat out, right? That Death Watch Guard is stealing gold. That's one rumor. The other rumor seems to be something vile about the girl. Oh, I know.
What?
It's not a rumor. It's true. She can channel. She can channel, right? It's coming out that as a Suldam, as someone who can hold, she can channel. That's the horrific thing about her that's spreading around, because Suldam can channel. She was a trainer. She would be the one. Yeah, I love Lil Jen typed it in the Discord right as
But
and so
is that rumor breaking containment yet though? I mean, I guess rumors don't have to be true. They don't have to be known to be whispered. This one just happens to be true. Oh, I like that someone just sort of threw that in the mix because they were just sort of one-upping and escalating in a bar over drinks, because that's how rumors start a lot of the time.
Or even just like with Sita and Bethamin, haven't people been
They
basically
do know.
seeding
They
rumors?
do. That's true. All the Suldam know that you don't talk to those two and you don't interact with them.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, that's true. We do have that. Yeah. No, the information technically exists, so a rumor can start and be true according to the cosmology of Robert Jordan.
And I thought that there was. I thought like Egwene and some people were trying to seed the rumors by
They will, but they haven't yet.
But they haven't yet. Okay, I was trying to get the timeline
future
on
thing.
that.
That's one of the problems with you listening to the end of the books.
Yeah, that
Remember,
is. Yeah, I'm
said
trying.
your timeline's screwed up. Yes, that will
My
happen
timeline's
later.
a little wonky right now. Okay,
That's
okay.
a Sanderson innovation.
But like, I feel like the information surely is there, right? I mean, Matt has said it. Matt has realized the fact that Matt can say it, and Karede is near Matt, right? Like, Matt has been like, oh God, my wife is going to be able to channel, right? Oh, bloody hell. And so clearly that information is getting out, I feel like, from that group even.
Well, that conversation happened after they left Abudar. But
Right.
Yes, the thing with the Suldam is super real. One Suldam makes one comment one time to someone who's not another Suldam. That's enough for a rumor to start. And yeah, that would be horrific from the perspective of Fira Karede. If the Daughter of the Nine Moons was actually Marath Tamani, that would be a problem.
That would be horrific.
Yeah.
Yeah, and especially given that it's well known that she is one of the best Domani trainers out there, so there must be some power connection there.
I bet she was a super powerful channeler.
Oh, yeah. She's like Supergirl tier.
Oh, imagine when she sits on the throne of Dominion. Oh no.
I'd rather not. It sounds terrifying.
Yeah, the crystal throne.
That's Crystal Throne, that's the one. The Rods of Dominion.
That's right. So. Yeah, the 9 Rods of Dominion, which are people, apparently, which, yeah.
Yeah, she doesn't want to sit on them.
No. Well, Depends on the relationship she has with Matt. Anyway.
Editing.
Unfortunately, I am no longer in control. God, this is really an editor's podcast, isn't it? Today, like we
God,
are just
It is. So the next interesting thing I've got is that Karede walks in and there's all this tension with the specific commander, the banner general he's talking to, partially because Death Watch guards automatically stand a half rank higher than everyone else in the army. They've all got the same structure, but they're just a half step higher. So that way anything that this guy has, Karede could just take. And so there's this extra tension that's not just like the general Death Watch guard vibes. It's also like a specific hierarchical, like, are you here to take my shit? Because we've seen the Shan-Chan. They're very concerned with who gets to have whose shit and who gets to be in charge of who. That's like the biggest deal in the world to them. So that's part of the tension here too.
I'm glad you said that because I was wondering about that because obviously they're both banner generals. I was thinking why is there so much? Obviously, he's a Death Watch guard, but I couldn't work out the ranking there. So I'm glad you said that.
Yeah, half ranks, just a little imperial extra plus 0.5 to their rank.
Crown on your lapel. And I think it's really given to the Death Watch guard just so they can't be ordered around easily. Right? Like, it's not so that, and that's why he's like, I'd really have to justify it or else my head would be on the line, right? If he took over, right? It's not something he can do casually because that half rank isn't there for him to go in and take control of armies and take control of battles. It's there so that no one can tell him what to do.
Yes.
Right.
When he's being like Secret Service man, 00, agent, right? Like, he's not supposed to be interrupted. And so that's where, like, yeah, he could technically take command, but it would be a huge faux pas for him to do so, and he would have to answer for that.
But that doesn't stop the lesser man from being paranoid and responding defensively.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because it's how rank-oriented people are, I guess.
Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, and that's where this situation between them gets a little complicated. Like, they're back and forth. I'm not really sure. It seems like Karede is, like, having a very innocent, nice interaction, and this guy is like, wow, you don't hate me? Okay. Right? So, I don't know. I don't really understand their dynamic between the two of them, is I guess what I'm trying to figure out.
I mean, maybe he's just had so little experience talking to Death Watch guards, or maybe he's expecting a reprimand of some kind for losing so many battles.
That makes sense.
There is quite a bit of comment about. Where's the line? I should have marked this down. Before you can have eyeless prisoners, you need eyeless victories, and what we've had is a string of eyeless defeats. So I think maybe he's just worried that he's going to be his command's going to be taken away from him or something.
In that sentence, he's using eyeless as a curse word, right?
Yeah.
He's not.
It's fun. I like that.
I was like, who are the eyeless troops? I don't know of any troops
no,
called
eyeless
the eyeless
as in
troops.
eyeless as in curse.
Before you can have fucking prisoners, you need a fucking victory. What we've had are a string of fucking defeats. Yeah,
exactly.
I mean, that's, there we go. Okay.
Jordan swearing.
Yeah, I think the other piece of this is the same kind of aura of violence that follows Valkyrie around wherever they go. This idea that any Valkyrie could kill you at any time, even though they're not. They're very honor-bound and very unlikely to actually do that. There's this attitude that they will. And I think the Death Watch guards have a similar thing going on where they are seen as extremely violent and extremely deadly, and they'll kill you for no reason because, some subtle insult kind of thing, right? And they'll kill you dead before anyone can do anything. And so there's this assumption that if you're in close proximity, you might die or have your command taken away or get reprimanded, right? Like, there's any number of bad things. Nothing good happens when a Death Watch guard comes near you, I think. That's kind of the attitude of the rank and file. And so that's why Karede is just doing a normal, polite conversation because he doesn't really live in that paranoia. And this guy is like just waiting for the other foot to drop the entire time. And then it doesn't, because that's not actually a real thing in this case.
Reminds me of a cop driving down the street and just trying to get from one place to another, and everyone like slamming on their brakes and pulling over to get out of the way. And he's like, listen, I'm not here to pull you over, but I could, but I'm not here to do that. I'm just trying to get to my destination. So if you could kindly stop doing that, that would be great. Like,
right, but also like maybe don't have your lights flashing while you drive down the street.
Yeah,
like...
right. He's got his tattoos showing. He's he's Death Watch guarding all over the place here. Like it's
confusing. It's just a little confusing.
Yeah, that's all. That's all.
You barrel into the guy's camp with 100 of the most heavily armored Death Watch guards,
right?
And you expect him to open you with a hug or something. He does give him calf though, which he sends everyone away so he can give him calf.
Really nice calf too.
And then he relaxes over it and like kind of just starts to like talk like the trade of soldiering and treats Karede like Karede wants to be treated for like a brief moment in the interaction, because everyone likes coffee, except for the people who don't. But everyone likes a hot cup of psychoactives. It helps.
I am drinking tea right now, but I did drink coffee this morning, so they are a fun mix, is what I find. The really best of both worlds. Why be stuck with one or the other?
Yeah, I mean, one's better, but the other has a lot more fun varieties. So,
I have no idea which one you think is which with that statement, because there are so many varieties of coffee beans, but so many varieties of tea that I would have trouble saying which one has more varieties.
Yeah, I guess that's a good point. Well, that'll just be a mystery, an exercise for the reader.
Nobody knows. Meanwhile, you teabag.
I'm not having any caffeine right now because that will make my uterus even more angry at me.
No, yay.
So no caffeine at all for me in any variety.
I did like in this chapter that you do get a bit of flavour of Sean Chan itself. There is quite a lot of mention of different accents, different factions, and then you even get the mountain range where the calf is grown. You get some kind of flavour of Sean Chan itself, which you don't see too often because you don't get that many POVs of just normal Sean Chan people. I say normal. I don't know if you can call him normal.
Random?
Mean people? Not because mean, but like the average.
Right,
yeah. Mean median mode.
Because I'm not entirely certain that Tuon would necessarily recognise and aware leading a sheltered life. I know she's an intelligent character, and she's seen a lot of stuff. Seems to have seen a lot of stuff with the attempts on her life and all that. I'm not sure
she's never been in a bar, so
exactly. I'm not sure she'd be able to recognise where an accent's from, or what part of the country has pale eyes, or who has dark skin from the continent. That kind of part of her empire, which she probably know, but
I mean, she probably learned it like from a book, right? She probably like went on like a very like curated trip one year and was expected to recite her like flashcards. Like,
yeah.
I mean, I guarantee she doesn't know what her eyes look like because nobody can look at her. She's probably never seen anybody's eyeballs.
Valid.
Rat was probably the first person to look her in the eyes, and she fell in love immediately.
Eye contact, so intimate.
Oh my God, he's really into me.
Right, exactly.
And I can't have him whipped for it. One of the other things, we get another mention of, remember Ajimbura is Karede's manservant? This guy has a similar manservant.
Yeah.
And part of me wants to go, are these guys like from a race of dark friends who are attaching themselves to important people to manipulate them? But I think it's more, I honestly just think it's racism. Like, I honestly just think it's Jordan writing a class of people whose culture is to serve, which gives me very like Dobby vibes.
Well, it's not like the whole race of people. Like they're kind of outliers, each from their tribes, right? They decide to leave their people and like do the thing. So it's
but in
like
the exact same way.
Yeah, it feels very like, yeah, periodically some of them just decide that they want to attach to the big people and follow them around or something, which just feels very, very racistly coded or something.
For no money and no pay, like...
I mean, there is a line, I'm trying to find it now, but there's a line where they compare them, he sends the servant away, and then they say, oh, they could almost be kin. Almost like saying, oh, these two people, they're from the same race. They might as well be.
They behave the same way towards us, so they must be the same person.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So I looked at that and it I don't know. It gave me the especially because these people are from like America, right?
Right.
Yeah. With the coffee and the
and the chattel slavery
and the chattel. Yeah. That's. It feels like these people are slaves in all but name, and somehow.
But for some reason, they're into it.
These two people are but these two people are somehow justifying it to themselves, and yeah.
It almost reminds me of like the loyal companion of indigenous origin to the like noble white explorer, like tromping around. Like that's kind of what it reminds me of almost more.
Sherpas and
like
yeah.
Yeah, it's giving me that sort of vibe. But yeah, with the Seanchan attitude, like this is not Sir Edmund Hillary and like Tenzing Norgay levels of respect, right? This is like the problematic kind of relationship.
Right.
Yeah, because it feels like Karede has like there is like he didn't capture this guy, right? Like these two men like attach themselves, but like why are they doing that? Like what's the motivation?
Right.
And yeah, what's the pay? No, not even the pay, but what's the reward? What is the point to them? What honor do they gain? What G do they gain, right? Like,
and then you have that sort of added layer where this, if you remember, Ajimbura was the guy who drunk out of a skull, and it really freaked Karede out, and it was this very like barbarian, not quite civilized. He eats with his fingers, and needs to be reminded to put on shoes, and there's this level of like he is just not civilized.
Yeah.
And we are bringing them civilization, and that's our gift to them. And it grosses me out a little bit. That's all.
Yeah, I agree. It gives the squick.
It's very on the nose, isn't it?
I mean, Seanchan giving the squick, right? Like that's what they do, right? That's
Yes, Robert Jordan is being consistent here.
Yeah, but I just had to point that out, and like the way these two guys are served, just and the way they're written makes me feel very weird.
Yeah, thanks for pointing that out, because I've always kind of been like, oh, how charming. But then, you say that out loud, and I'm like, no.
Right?
Bad,
right?
Bad.
It doesn't feel...
I'm like, get a squirt bottle, like, squirt myself. Like, no.
Yeah. And honestly, until... Which is funny, because all my examples are of Ajimbura, but until I read this section, and I can see the comparison, it didn't really occur to me in the same way. But now once there's two of them...
Well, Robert Jordan had well put together opinions.
Yeah.
Usually.
Do we want to talk about the battles?
Ooh, yes. Yes. So this is the Matt battles. Yes, this is Matt like lighting a fire to bring the... Okay, cool. Yeah.
Quite literally lighting some fires, because they're all like... Okay, so we basically get this description, right? And... the conclusions they draw are wrong, but the facts they have are correct.
Right.
Okay?
Right. Yes.
And the fact is they're getting killed by crossbow bolts that are getting fired way too fast for conventional crossbow bolts. Well, we know Matt has the crank, right? So he has way fewer troops than they think he has. Because they're looking at like, oh my god, in order to fire that many crossbow bolts, he has to have 20,000 or more crossbowman bolt. 30,000 maybe, right? Well, Matt doesn't have nearly that many. He has maybe a quarter of that many with cranks. And so they're looking for much bigger groups of troops. And second, there's these explosions happening. And they're going, my god, how are these explosions happening? They must be Aes Sedai, but it's fireworks. Matt is slingshots and fireworks and causing explosions that way.
Dragons.
So... Yeah. These aren't even dragons. These aren't cannons yet. This is Matt actually, like, he doesn't have cannons.
Oh, that's true. This is her like improvised grenades and stuff.
Basically. Yeah. These are basically grenades.
These are her IED models.
Mm-hmm. So grenades on slingshots, crossbow cranks, and I assume just really fast marching or splitting up his group.
Yeah, the band is known for its speed. That is one of its secret weapons, is how fast it can move.
So they're talking about all these troops in all these different places, putting out this excess of arrows and having Aes Sedai, and they think it's traveling, which is a strategy that gets used, right?
But not with this army.
But not with this army.
Because none of them know traveling. None of the people that he's got. When Karede goes through the explanations for why they aren't traveling, he hits the right one, which is that the knowledge has not hit this group. Which it will soon.
I want to read this paragraph, I think, of just about what he thinks is going on. Over the last week, Lawrence said, there have been 4 sizable engagements and upward of 60 ambushes, skirmishes, and raids, many quite large, and spread across 300 miles. 300 miles, long distance, still possible for them to run quickly. There must be 6 or 8 different armies involved on the other side. The night after the first large engagement saw 9 major raids, each 40 to 50 miles from the site of the battle. Not small armies either, at least not taken all together, but we can't find them, and no one has any idea where they came from. Whoever they are, they have these damane, those Aes Sedai with them, and maybe those cursed Ashaman. Men have been torn apart by explosions our damane say weren't caused by the power. Those are the grenades.
Yes.
But they are torn apart by explosions caused by the power, and those are the Aes Sedai.
Wait, what?
That's what I'm not clear on.
There are power explosions?
That's what I'm curious. They have damane, those Aes Sedai, with them, right? So that obviously, like, in order for him to be confirming about that, to be positive about that, his damane must have confirmed that weaves are being used.
Well, don't they know that there's Aes Sedai in the group that they're following, though?
That's a good question. I guess I'm just wondering, are the Aes Sedai being involved in these battles somehow? Are they, like, getting themselves in trouble?
Would they be able to be involved?
I wouldn't think so, normally.
No.
Doesn't Teslin make a light over the battle? Like a red light over the battlefield?
Okay.
But, I forget, they don't have any free damane with them, do they?
No.
No.
They have the Suldam, but that's different.
Yeah, they're not going to be any good at channeling. And they don't have any of the, like, novices. Mm-mm.
And they don't do healing at the end. So I think it's just the assumption. Oh, no, but would these guys know that they have that? That's interesting. How do they know that there's Aes Sedai if they aren't? Because, yeah, they can't be involved in the battles unless they're being attacked, which they can't be attacked during a surprise raid. That's sort of antithetical to the surprise part.
There's no hint on what the Aes Sedai are actually doing. How would they even know they had them?
Yeah. I guess if the damane were close enough to the raiding party and there was an Aes Sedai in the raiding party, they could tell. But again, why would they be in the raiding party? I guess it's like healing backup in case, but...
Yeah. Or occasional scattering of earth, something like that to cover a retreat.
Yeah, to hide the trail. They should vanish off into the woods.
I was just looking at Matt's plan. I don't see any clues. Because this is all according to Matt's plan. Because he's trying to pull the plug out of the bottle. Which is he's trying to basically hit them hard enough that the army is going to come out of Maldive Narrows. Because right now they're blocking Maldive Narrows. And to get Tuon back to where she's safe, he needs to get her through Maldive Narrows.
And this guy says, we're doing it. General Chison is bringing everyone through the Maldive Narrows. We're doing it. We are doing exactly what Matt wanted because he's good at his job.
Yeah, and there's so many things where it's like, this person is good, right? Like, the commanders are very good, very, very good. Every man to face them has been fought off his feet, outmaneuvered, and outfought completely, right? Matt is just dominating on this level to get them to do exactly what he wants. Like, they are outclassed on every level.
Yeah. The only thing Karede's wrong about is the name. This Merrilin is real good at his job. Okay.
Tom is very good at his job. Just that's the wrong one.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
You know that name from somewhere, and it's not what you think.
Would Tom be a good general? That's something that I think is like a little bit untapped. It would be fun to have like Matt as the general of the armies and have Tom be his like second in that battle, instead of doing what Tom did, which was like stand on a cliff and throw knives in the back of Aes Sedai. Like, have him actually use his skills at stones, because he's supposed to be like this great stones player, right?
Which means he should be a great general.
Right. So I think it would be really cool to have him be like, no, boy, you're going to get us killed with that plan. Let's do this instead. I think that would be pretty funny.
Yeah.
Anyway, ways that which I would use characters.
Well, I think he would have had a chance, wouldn't he, when he was in Andor and Camelyn with Milgaze. I'm sure he would have had a chance to become first Prince of the Sword if he really wanted to, but...
I mean, he was with Gareth Bryn, right, as the general. Or was that later? That was really later.
Yeah, but he was good at stones from day one. Like, You know, he got his first mustache hairs. He became good at stones, like same day.
Like Samson, his powers in his hair. If he cut his mustaches, he'd get bad at stones again.
Exactly.
How do you account for that in the TV show?
Well,
He sucked in the TV show, so that pretty much covers it. No mustaches, no personality. I mean, he sang a great song. I loved it, and then he fucked off, and we never saw him again. So,
No.
all the game is in the stash.
Yep.
Knuckling that mustache, you're not knuckling anything else.
Zulu makes a good point. Dana makes a good point that, you know, being good at politics doesn't necessarily mean being good at armies.
According to Jordan, it is.
According to Jordan, it is. Like, like, being good at stones, being good with armies, and being good at politics seem to all be the same to him. But they're really not.
Yeah, no, they're. I don't think they are. Jordan seems to think they are, but I disagree.
Exactly. You wouldn't expect, like Balwa or Nori, brilliant spy masters. Well, Nori becomes a brilliant spy master and great at moving people around, but just, you wouldn't trust them to be in charge.
Right.
And likewise, most of the generals I don't think would make good spy masters. They're way too straightforward and bold and like embodied to be good spy people.
Yeah.
I think maybe what he's saying is the best generals have that skill as in politics as well, and have that skill in maneuvering as well. Like, not necessarily... Not being good at stones doesn't make you a good general, but being a good general makes you good at stones. I think maybe we're getting cause and effect backwards.
Sure, it's the Venn diagram thing. Like, this, being good at stones is the in-between.
Exactly. Like, you're good at politics, you're good at battles, you're good at, you know, stones, and like, the...
I mean,
where
I'm
they
bad at
overlap,
all three, so that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, sure, right, yeah. I've tried playing Go. Wow, is that game hard? It's I enjoy chess. I'll play a game of chess any day. Chess is a child's game compared to Go. It's ridiculous.
I don't think I've ever actually tried playing Go. I've played Othello several times. I got very obsessed with that, which is visually not dissimilar. You've got the black and white stones on a crosshatch board, but I don't think it's remotely close to the same game.
It's like a miniature version of the game, right? It's like you shrink it down, have it on one spot. I think there's also some rule changes that are slightly different, but yeah. Yeah, I also played some Othello, and all of that made me realize is just how complex Go can get.
So there's just one last thing in this chapter that I think is cool, is this potential branching other path that the plot could have gone on, where Karede thinks that he would have gone after Tuon all the way to the White Tower. Like, he would get her out of the White Tower if he had to. And I'm like, that would have been a really cool plot if she had gone all the way to the White Tower and he, like, did have to go in and rescue her. That would have been fucking cool.
It would have been a cool way to have the attack on the White Tower happen.
Right? Like, there's just, like, ooh, like, I see why that didn't happen, but I love that he thought about it, and, like, there's a branch universe where we can imagine how that could have gone.
Yeah, at the same time, you could say that she gets to the White Tower, Elayne's still in charge, she gets put into Novice Whites, and then gets abducted at the attack.
Oh, and collared?
Oh, that'd be so good. She's, like, screaming, I'm Tuon, and, like... Oh my god. Wow.
And someone goes, no, you are Tululi.
Yep, you are one on.
Yeah.
One on.
Stealing that from Allie, shamelessly. So that's all I have about that chapter. It took us a cool 40-ish minutes.
But yeah, no, I guess my only last point is that Karede correctly reads the situation, reads the whole point of the attacks is to pull the army from Maldive Narrows, and goes, oh, well, that's where I'll meet Tuon and this general, because that's his whole goal, is to pull the army out of there. So if I just wait at the Maldive Narrows, I will find them. And sure enough, that's where he finds them, right? Like, Karede is incredibly clever and incredibly smart by walking in, saying, okay, what's going on? Interesting. Okay, see you later. And immediately goes to where the opposite general is hanging out. And, like, is able to read the situation that well and track that, be that smart to be like, oh, okay, then the general's going to be at this location.
Yeah, it is very clever.
And Matt realizes how smart he is straight away as well, because just from that small meeting later on, Matt is looking for an inn in Ibadar, and then decides against the place because he thinks he might meet Karede there and doesn't want to ever meet him again.
Yeah. Yeah.
Too smart. He's too smart.
Too smart. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But I mean, smart enough to entrust Tuon's safety too.
Well, I mean, you want someone to be too smart if you're going to entrust them with someone like Tuon, right? It's got to be someone like you, like on your own level. But you can't trust them, but you can trust them, right? Somehow that makes sense.
As long as their motivations, as long as their goals line up with yours in this moment.
Right.
I think that's the key. Is like if the goals don't line up, then you don't want to run into them again. And Matt's not sure what his goals are going to be in the future.
Right. Well, his goals will always be what Tuon's goals are, and Tuon's goals are complicated. So.
Yeah, but can you imagine Karede and Matt teaming up in the future to just like reform Seanchan?
I mean, that could be some fun buddy cop energy.
That's what I'm saying.
The one's stoic, the one's absolutely cracking jokes all the time.
Both of them trying to manipulate Tuon into like being a better person.
I'm here for it.
It's what the Outrigger novels were supposed to be.
And then Min's there in the background telling them both to shut up.
Absolutely.
For sure.
No, that's what I'm saying. Like he put a lot. If you look at where the characters end up at the end of the series, like Matt, Tuon, Karede, like there's a cast of characters. Min, who he absolutely was going to, have go back to Seanchan and do a reverse colonialization. Oh, well. Anyway, I think that's it for this chapter. Do you want to dig into the Andor stuff?
Yeah.
And
Let's get there.
Chapter 35, The Importance of Dyelin.
It's got a lion. They want safe conduct, Elayne said incredulously. To enter Camelyn? Lightning flashed outside the windows, and thunder boomed. Outside, a deluge fell on Camelyn, a hammering downpour. The sun must have been well above the horizon, but the stand lamps were lit against twilight darkness. The slender young man standing in front of her low-backed chair colored with embarrassment, yet he continued to look her in the eye. He was little more than a boy, really. His smooth cheeks likely shaved as much for form as because he needed a razor very often. Very properly, Hansel Renshar, Arathel's grandson, wore neither sword nor armor, but the marks of breastplate straps remained on his green coat, imprinted by long wear. A large damp spot on his left shoulder showed where his cloak had leaked through. Odd, the things you noticed at a time like this. I was instructed to ask for it, my lady, he said, his voice steady. Scene set. Anger levels high.
Yeah, so this is a deliberate insult from Elorian.
Elorian
right?
and co, but yes.
And co. Okay.
Elorian is definitely leading the charge.
So I did a little deep dive on Elorian. I don't understand why she's opposing Elayne here.
she's opposing all Trakans because of what Morghese did to her.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's just because she's stubborn, because all Andorans are stubborn. It's how you know they're real, right, proper Andorans is because they dig their heels in.
Because, like, I look at her history, and it looks like at various points she has expressed support for Elayne in her past.
Yeah.
And so it's just like, what is going on here? Like, I don't understand.
It's her grudge over being beaten in public by Ravine puppeted Morghese. She's just decided all Trakans are bad now. And that's just the way it is.
Yeah.
But, okay, Path of Daggers, Chapter 28, Elorian supports Elayne for the Lion Throne. That's not that, that's like a month ago.
Is that to Rand's face? Because it could be a common enemy kind of thing. We're like, of course we're going to support Elayne when we're talking to Rand, but...
I guess that's what Dyelin says to Elayne. So it's all at the word of Dyelin.
Yeah, Dylan's like, she's going to come around. She's going to come around. She's going to come around. She's liked you her whole life. She'll come around.
Mm-hmm.
And Elorian's like, no, the fact that you expected me to come around means that I will not, as a matter of spite.
Gotcha.
I mean, she does go to the play
She
that
does.
Elayne puts on later on.
She does.
So there are shoots there of a good relationship, and Elayne is named after someone from the Tremaine house.
Right.
Right.
you can't stay mad at someone who's honouring your ancestors that much, who actually really didn't have anything to do with your beating.
Yeah.
But it seems like she's going to and insisting on it anyway.
At this point, yes. But yeah, no, John's right. Like, she does, once the issue is settled, she does allow overtures to start to reach her. And, like, she does come to the play. Even though she's rude about it, she does come. And, like, there's definitely, like, maybe she's starting to get over it. Hope at the end of the tunnel that's starting. But at this point, she's still just in opposition for opposition's sake. At least I think that's her motivation.
There's also a mention of House Tremaine getting some very favourable tax rates in the past and not being certain they're going to get the same treatment from Elayne. I think Elayne says something along the lines of, I'm not going to treat them any differently from other houses. And
oh, yeah, that is when Gawain's talking to Romaine.
Yes, yeah.
About apple orchard taxation. It is Tremaine, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay.
I never made that connection.
That's why we've got the Andor expert on for this one.
Apparently, this is good. This is good.
And it's one of the few points, it's one of the few times where they actually dive into Andoran economy that isn't anything to do with mining.
Alum. It'll solve everything.
It really solves all of Elayne's problems for sure.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. And so it makes sense that, like, of course, Elorian's apple orchards were taxed lower. Like, why would they not be? But then Elayne's gonna economic politics. Fun.
Right? It's like Jordan did a lot of thinking about it, but it wasn't necessarily on the page because it's clearly there somehow in what we're seeing. But, like, yeah, it takes a really careful reading. But the fact that the clues are there and they do fit means that, of course, Jordan thought about it. Of course he did. Okay. It helps to know her house is Tremaine, sort of think of it as, like, the insult to the Tremaine house and Tremaine politics, that sort of thing.
So at this point, we've time skipped forward a little bit. Luan and Elorian and everyone else have arrived with 60,000 armsmen 2 days ago, right? So it's now been a couple of days since the kidnapping and the end of that war. Now these guys have been here for a few days. Now they're coming up to talk, right? We've skipped ahead like half a Randland week at this point from the last time that we were on this plot.
Which is like 2 books in slog time. Like,
seriously. So yeah, Elayne is sort of doing the numbers, being like, I really want to negotiate with these guys because they have more armsmen than us. And also, like, she doesn't say it outright, but like the obvious subtext is Andorans killing Andorans on the eve of the last battle is bad. Like, it really makes sense to talk these 60,000 people in rather than shattering them against your much smaller force. Like, come on, let's talk. And that's really her focus.
I don't think they were ever there to fight.
Agreed.
no.
In the same way that Elayne is using the Borderlanders as a bluff, I think those 60,000 are only there to defend the houses and their nobles and potentially Camelyn. They don't against the Borderlanders.
Okay. You think that they're there basically to say, hey, the Borderlanders are here, we need to attack them, let's unite to attack the Borderlanders.
It's how Elayne gets around giving them safe passage in the end, isn't it? She says, you come in, we need to talk about the Borderlanders, whereas she knows exactly why the Borderlanders are there.
Right. Well, and she makes a point that, like, why would I give you safe passage? We're not at war. There's no war going on. Everyone who was fighting me has surrendered. You haven't declared for me yet, but that doesn't mean we're fighting. Why should, like, as far as I'm aware, we're just, we're just back to politics because the war is over.
Right. And she does give them safe passage, but she's like, this is dumb. You don't need this. Yeah, and I absolutely agree that the reason that the other nobles are there is because they think the Borderlanders are a problem, and Elayne is like, exactly where I wanted you.
Exactly. Totally,
like, that was why
totally.
she brought the Borderlanders into the equation the way she did, was to goad them. And she even reveals that was what she did and defends that choice as an Aes Sedai. But, like, I mean, she really is, like, also, like, evil, maniacal fingers behind a tree. Like, this is exactly how I planned it, to a certain extent. Because she's smart. She deserves to be queen. She's cranky, but she deserves to be queen.
So again, remind me that we had 18 total houses. half of which right now are on Elayne's side. She has 9, right? So you need one more than half to win the crown, which would be 10. And they're trying to get this Diane Candred to support them, and she's just this wishy-washy person wwho, even in the last session, never supported anybody.
No.
She's like, well, both sides are the same, you know?
Diane?
Diane?
No, that's no.
Diane Candred?
Thank you. Yeah, that'll do. Thank you for having the pronunciations for us, Aradia. Names are hard.
Thank you, Kate and Michael.
God, the more I do this podcast, the more I really get upset when people try and criticize Kate and Michael online. Like, well, they got Mogadine wrong. I'm like, do you know how fucking hard it is to do what they do day in and day out and do it as consistently and as good as they do it? The little bit of inconsistencies that come through are because, like, there's nobody... You know, we don't have $1 million budget to check and have them go back and, like, do retakes. Right? Like, that's not what this is. This is someone reading you a book, you know? Like, I don't know. They do an amazing job. I've listened to so many other audio readers who do it so much worse. Or even, like, hey, if the number of times when I, like, start with one audiobook reader on a series and they never finish it, so you have a totally different audiobook reader who doesn't occasionally get a one or name wrong or different. They're all completely different. They started from scratch, totally new pronunciations for everything, right? So, like, you know, slightly different pronunciations. I don't know. I'm sorry. This is my soapbox. I'm on it. Stop criticizing Kate and Michael. They're amazing. I love them.
And they dance pretty well as well.
Yes.
And we also get one final time of going around the Dyelin. Again, the importance of Dyelin is this chapter. And Elayne literally looks at Dyelin and says, are you sure? Sure. Absolutely sure you don't want to be queen. Because, like, we can hang a left real quick and make you queen, no problem. It would be so much more politically expedient. Like, I'm exhausted. I would do it. I would give it to you right now if you really wanted it. And Dyelin, because she's awesome and important to the overall structure, is like, nah, girl, you're the rightful queen. Like, I want to be Lady Dyelin under Queen Elayne. That's the position I'm looking to achieve for myself.
But this really is last chance. It's like, I got 9 out of 10. I can give you those 9, but once I have 10, I am queen. I cannot give you my votes. I am officially elected, right? Like, it really is just like last offer. This is one way to resolve the conflict.
Yeah, and Elayne, I believe Elayne. I believe that Elayne would stand by her decision if Dyelin had accepted. I think Elayne would have been like, cool, genuinely all right, let's do it.
But what would she have done? She couldn't have stayed in Camelyn.
Black Aja hunting at 6 months pregnant seems like a good plan.
Right?
It's gonna go great for her as Queen Regent or Queen Elect or whatever happens when she gets stabbed.
So love the note she writes to these, you know, upstart nobles, the ones who have not supported her.
They're just in a disagreement. They're established houses.
Sorry, indecisive. Let's go with indecisive.
Okay, sure.
So each one of those houses, the high seats of each one of those houses, was exiled from Camelyn by more gays.
Sure.
So you can see why
that's true.
You can see why they would want to avoid the situation.
No, I mean, okay. You know, it makes sense. They have their reasons. But this isn't Morghese. And, like, have they not seen the world? Do they not seen the Forsaken? This idea that, like, oh my god, Morghese couldn't have been under compulsion. That's such this crazy idea.
No, that's a fair point.
I think maybe they've just seen teenagers and they're like, oh no, Elayne's still basically a teenager.
But that's a fair point. They haven't actually seen her since she went off to the tower.
Mm-mm.
That's true, actually. Mm-hmm. She's grown up a lot in the, 2 short years since the last state event where they would have met her.
Mm-hmm. They'll remember Elayne in the garden with Gawain.
Right.
In the first book. They won't. Or arguing with Galid. They might not know what she... Well, they definitely won't know what she's been through as an Aes Sedai.
Right. Yeah, she's gone through a lot of maturing, for sure.
But then they shouldn't question that. They should just... I mean, it's a monarchy.
Right. No, it's a democratic monarchy. We respect people, but also need a a regent. That's a okay. Okay, Jordan.
Because what did she say? Like this Dyelin hadn't dithered like this since the last secession. She's like, this isn't a secession. Secessions are when one house secades a different house. This is just me getting it from my mother. This shouldn't be a fucking like. There's not an exchange of power between houses. This is the same house inheriting power. Shouldn't be a battle. Shouldn't be an army. It's just this whole exile / dragon reborn interim forsaken king causing some problems.
Dyelin, or however you pronounce it, she was around for the third succession war, and rather than getting involved, she just toured around her estates.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So she's never gonna make a decision.
She's not going to decide.
Useless politician.
Yeah, definitely.
Useless.
I'm supporting both sides. Okay, one side's a merciless dictator idiot. The other one is,
Pregnant?
Amarilla.
Well, but in the last war, we don't even know. I mean, they were kind of like equivalent size, right? Like the last succession, like genuinely, like it was just like, I don't know. There was not a supremely bad side.
We don't get much detail from Jordan about that at all.
Mm-hmm.
You don't even know who you don't even really know who's opposing the Trakans. It's
right. It's that the one house, Mantiar, loses the throne, and then there's no house with a particularly strong claim, so they kind of have to like Grand Royale it out.
Gotcha.
Battle Royale it out.
Yeah.
And in the end, we find out all these houses support them, but we don't really know what the various sides were, right? Like we find out that these 6 or 7 or 8 houses supported Trakand.
Yeah.
And were gays, but
Tom was involved, so like that's why Trakand won.
Yeah, basically.
Almost all the houses that supported the Trakans in the third succession war were either neutral or supported Trakand in the fourth succession war. And I mean, these cuts go deep, I guess, because almost all the ones who didn't support Trakand in the third war ended up supporting Amarella. And so, yeah, it shows how close in history that these succession wars actually are to each other.
Yeah.
Well, and just how loyal these groups are, and how these loyalties persist across generations, and across houses, and it just persists.
Either way, there's going to be considerably less houses now.
Right.
Yeah?
There's a lot of death.
Or after the last battle, you mean?
No, later on, before the last battle, Nori reports back and says the houses Arwen, Sarand, and Marnie are bankrupt, and unless Elayne does something, they will cease to exist. So she throws them at Carrion instead. So they're not really Andoran houses anymore.
Oh, right. She does that like cross-pollination exchange program with the various disgraced nobles of 2 countries, being like, you can cruise over to my other kingdom because I don't hate you over there, legally speaking.
Yeah.
Do you think Andor and Carrion are like on path to merge together into a single country, or do you think it'll always be a France-England ruled by the same king situation?
They're not contiguous, right? So it'd be hard to merge them into one country?
They're just separated by a river.
Yeah. I think a lot of it comes from whether Carrion actually has anything Andor actually wants.
Right.
I mean, Andor's got a lot of mining resources, a lot of crops, a lot of fertile land, whereas Carrion can't even grow enough wheat to feed its people. So...
Well, it couldn't because people were afraid of the Aiel coming over the Dragon Wall since the Kyrianan War. And that is going to change because there aren't going to be freaking Aiel in the waste, right? They're all going to be the policemen in the normal world. So I can see that area of Kyrian being repopulated by farmers and resettled as Kyrian becomes sort of self-established, especially with Elayne in charge. She's going to be like, why don't we have any farmers on that freaking land over there? They're like... She will negotiate with the Aiel and Avienda, the wise ones, to make sure that they're safe. So I can see Carrion as growing, maybe with the help of Andor, this big growing country.
Yeah, you get a kind of homesteading program where without replacing the natives, where you're just giving land to farmers and go and farm here. Don't worry, nobody's actually on that land at the moment.
Right, and the only thing north of Karede and Andor is just the Carleon grass and Tarvalin, right? Like there's this giant expanse of essentially nothing to the north of these countries that they can, I mean, basically a bread bowl. I don't know.
Yeah.
It seems like it should be Karleon and grass. I mean, grassland. Maybe it's not the greatest crop growing space, but it should be good.
Good cattle growing.
Growing.
If you can't. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the only time we actually see it is I think the only time we actually see anyone go in it is in book 1 with Perrin Egwene, and it's described as quite bleak, but I guess few settlements and a few crops.
Yeah.
Corn will grow there.
Right, yeah. Corn and crops. Corn and...
herding horses and cattle.
And I guess probably it gets pretty cold in the winter. I would guess it's sort of like the Midwest where it's like under like a lot of feet of snow because there's just nothing to block the wind.
Sure. Yeah.
And so you get just probably crazy thunderstorms and stuff. I can see it being very, very Midwesty.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the Midwest, which is, totally cropland. So, yeah, some breadbasket energy as the population booms in the aftermath of the last battle. You're going to need a breadbasket to pop up to support that hockey stick graph on population that you want for that fourth age situation. So, somewhere's got to do it.
Well, and it's quite close. Geographically, it's quite close to the two rivers as well, who are just going to explode in population, which is still part of Andor. Doesn't matter what people say.
No, and what's between Saldea and the two rivers? The Carleon grass, right? That's basically, and you're going to have Perrin as the king of, with the broken crown, king of Saldea, and king of two rivers. However, that's going to work. Of course, they're going to want to expand to the middle.
Yeah, for sure.
And there's a whole river there that looks like it would be perfect for like expanding down. You go from Merrilin.
Merrilin.
Can't zoom in. Merrilin. Sorry, not Merrilin. Me saying pronunciation is hard. I mean it. But yeah, there's a whole branching river that looks like it goes from the mountains. You probably have to get over the mountains. There's probably a mountain range where Merrilin is, and then basically you're downriver from there. So build a few tunnels with these new explosives that Matt's come up with.
Yeah.
And you open up a whole trade route from Saldea to the two rivers in Andor.
I mean, I think there is a river that goes straight down from there, isn't there already? Or am I wrong? Lost my map.
Looking for enough resolution I can actually see what the rivers are.
I have one up on my wall, but it's at a very sharp angle from where I'm sitting.
The Arenell? That can't be right. Well, yeah, the Arenell is what looks like it goes north of Merrilin, all the way up to Saldea.
Which is a wonder why there was never any trade going down that river already. Maybe it's just going through too many wild areas.
It goes through. It looks like there's nothing in between Merrilin and Saldea, and Merrilin is on this side of the mountains. So
I don't think there's mountains there, are there? That's just above Merrilin. You've got what's it called?
I guess they call them the Hills of.
You got Shudder Logoth.
Oh, that's
right
true.
there.
You do have that. Okay, that is north of there. You got the Hills of Abshur. That seems to be the mountain. Those are the mountains I'm talking about. The Hills of Abshur, which aren't that crazy, but it is. That's why Merrilin's a mining town in the mountains or in the hills.
Yeah, and you've got Camouflage next to it as well.
Yeah. Anyway, I
can talk Andor.
It's interesting how isolated Emond's Field is, and yet somehow it's still in this major. Like it's geographically very centralized. It just has a lot of these geographic features to isolate it.
It has quite a, should we say, oversized effect on the world as well.
Yes.
Because the amount we as readers we can forget how small the two rivers actually is, and a lot of people will come onto my Twitter and say independence for the two rivers, Emond's Field forever kind of thing. And when you look how small it is and how surrounded by Andor it actually is it's like saying independence for Rhode Island or something like that.
Azul's pointing out that there was trade on that river because that's why Baal Domon was even there. in the first
Oh,
place.
of course,
So
yeah.
Of course,
Yes.
there is
yeah.
some
He's running
trade.
ice peppers
But
down.
you have to be
yeah.
kind of a badass because, there's not a lot of trade between the locations.
And the Borderlands aren't necessarily like a high demand for goods, right? They're mostly producing warriors.
Furs and ice peppers.
I always imagine though that Bail Domon was totally negotiating with Files with Files' dad.
Oh, yeah, one would assume. One would assume.
One would assume, just because even though it's a big world, it's a tiny world. It kind of reminds me of like, why do we have the same like 5 inventors? And it's like, even though there were a lot of people in sort of medieval and like or Renaissance time, there's only a small group of people who are rich enough to actually do the experiments. And so they tend to get all the credit because right people, right time. It was actually a fairly small community.
Yeah. All right, so moving on, Elayne decides to keep all of the people who had been Aramilla's spies before. Reen Harfor wants to dismiss them, but Elayne says, no, those are the people most likely to be spies when the next person tries to put spies in my palace, so let's just have those little firewall breakers there already, and we'll just deal with them like we did last time. No big deal.
Can I just say I love Dyelin, her little, when she's like, "What, you would make a better queen." And Elaine's like, "Why?" And Dylan says, "Well, your connection to the Dragon Reborn," and then raises an eyebrow at her.
Oh,
and
yeah,
asks her,
yeah,
it's like
yeah.
your connection to the Dragon Reborn, whatever that happens to be. And Elayne just sits there being like, patting her belly. I have no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah.
I thought that was a great little comedic moment from Dylan.
Yes, that is good. And then we've got the whole like Reen Harfor, Master Nori telling us like stuff about the palace, important things, dull things. We've got a theme of a leaking window that sort of persists throughout the chapter.
Metaphor?
Maybe.
And the important thing, the sewers of Upper Camelyn not working.
Yeah, that's important. Also, what's important is the number of arsons has not decreased.
I have a huge question mark next to that.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
So let's hear it.
Okay. They announced with some surprise that the number of arsons had not decreased. 17 billion buildings had been burned in the night. He had been sure the capture of Aramilla would see an end to that, and he was rueful over being wrong, right? So these arsons have been happening. They've been going way, way back. And as far as we have been saying as a podcast, is we have been saying dark friends.
Right. Mellar and Cheyenne, like, dark friends. Yeah.
However, in the next paragraph, the prisoners are still being closed-mouthed, I fear, Nori is saying. The dark friends are all in captivity.
The known dark friends.
The known... Okay. You think there's unknown dark friends out there still setting arson, doing arson?
What else could be setting fires other than dark friends?
Okay.
There is a faction of mercenaries who aren't getting paid what they think they should be getting paid. I mean, they never turn up again.
Right.
Yeah, I don't think it's that. I think it's that Cheyenne had more than one minion setting fires. I think she had a lot of people setting fires, and they weren't all caught up in the Elayne situation.
So you think even though Mellar and the Dark Friends and basically the head of the snake is cut off, but the body's still thrashing around setting fires because it hasn't been told not to.
Right, exactly. And to return to your question about having the metaphor for the leaking window, I was like, yeah, sure, moving on. But then Athlon pointed out there's an exploitable waygate in the city. And I'm thinking like, that's what all of these arsons have been leading up to, right? Is keeping Elayne's forces scattered so that way, like, when the waygate gets exploited, they're all over the place anyway, right? That's what I've been assuming, is that this is just sort of preparing the chaos ground. Kind of like how later on in that one town in Saldaea with Ituralda, like, they throw rocks a whole bunch and then they throw bodies and then they throw Drakkar, right? Like, I've kind of assumed that these arsons were a similar thing, like preparing the way specifically for the invasion through the waygate, which could be analogized by the leaking window, bringing it all together.
That the window is what's keeping out the dark friends. So you don't think they're using the waygate to get in because it's guarded?
Yeah, no. The waygate
point.
only gets used the one time, and that's the time that Camelyn gets basically leveled.
Okay.
But this is all in preparation for that, I think.
I was trying to be like, maybe people are sneaking through the waygate, and those are the people that are setting the fires. No, okay. But you think these are the people who are actively undermining Camelyn's ability to respond to threats. They're basically dialing 911 repeatedly every night, as often as they can, so that when the threat of the invasion happens, the police force doesn't respond in a timely fashion.
Yeah.
Anyway, so okay, all right, I'll accept your opinion. I was just thinking that with the Dark Friends wrapped up, that like it would that plot line would be kind of over.
So then why is it not? Just give me an alternative theory.
Yeah, I don't have one. That's why I put a big question mark right there. I was asking you. I don't know. I got nothing. Right. So yeah, I reluctantly accept your explanation.
Thrashing snake body. That's
thrashing snake body. Yeah, the head is cut off like a Murdral, thrashing Murdral body.
Exactly. It takes an organization a full 7 days to die, whereas a Murdral just takes until sunset.
It takes an American corporation 72 years to die.
Because they're people now, so that means they have mortal lifespans, right?
Right. Yeah, I wish. Disney would be long dead.
That'd be nice.
Obviously, the Dark Friends are very closed-mouthed because of oaths, right? They're not going to say anything.
Right. The only thing that we get to hear is that Mellar continues to scream horrible things about the women that he will do to them. And that's great. We love that. But also, apparently, they did beat the shit out of him on the way into getting arrested.
Which we do love that.
Which is, we do love that. We do love that. That's good. He deserved that. But yeah, they're not gonna be answering any questions, no matter how many creepy secretaries from Sylvaise you throw at them. And this is also where we get Sylvaise's backstory. This is the entirety of Sylvaise's backstory, is what Nori reports to her. That few people keep a private questioner. It suggests a dark side. But then, as I understand matters, her grandfather chased away every man who showed interest in her until men stopped showing interest, and she has been virtually a prisoner since reaching her majority. That would tend to give anyone a dark view of the world. Scary.
So, okay, what is that implying?
I mean, she's only just got her torturer because she's pinched him from Aramilla.
Right.
I think she was hers the whole time. I think she was loaning him to Aramilla.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
That's right.
That makes more sense.
Yeah, I do wonder what sort of like pulling wings off flies like special interest club they met in, It's
like, why does there seems to be an eagerness to Sylvaise to use this person too, right? Like, I want them to torture people with her. Like,
right. And he's a dark friend who ultimately creates a jailbreak situation.
That's right. He is a dark friend.
Yeah.
So this is that's because I pointed that out last time that he.
Right. But Sylvaise, as far as we know, is not a dark friend and was not deliberately in on that plot. She just wanted a, regular nasty person, not necessarily an explicitly evil person.
But this summoning of the questioner is what leads to the jailbreak.
Yes.
That leads to Mellar getting out and killing Avienda. No, Brigida, thank you.
And having spare medallions. He has some of the medallions.
Yes, that's right.
After that.
That's right. God, yeah, what a jerk. Should have just let Nori give his best shot at it, right? Like, why not?
Just let Nori, read a thesaurus at them until they confess.
Right. Just, Nori, what I want you to do is just practice your daily reports multiple times with this person before you come to me.
Yeah, you tell them about all the sewer stuff, okay?
Then we get the midwife. Do we want to talk about the midwife?
Yeah, then we get a prenatal exam.
Yeah, which, thank God, we finally have a competent, if gross, midwife.
It's period correct?
Yeah.
It's not a thing that hasn't happened in the history of midwifery.
The tasting of the urine?
Yeah. That's a thing. Yeah, it's a real thing.
It's a legit thing, right? I mean, it's a real diagnostic tool. It's just a gross diagnostic tool.
Yeah, but it's a very real thing that's been part of the medical toolkit for many a century. Like, it's not something Jordan made up.
No, it's also a very good way to test for diabetes.
Yeah, with the sweetness. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
which can be really common in pregnant women,
Yep.
right?
Yep. Yeah, my mom had that issue specifically. But yeah, it's Melfane is a very cool midwife, particularly the part where this is where we get the extremely satisfying description of Elayne getting a good meal, and the line, Melfane had lambasted the cooks and every other woman in earshot for the bland diet they had been feeding her. Thank you. Thank you, Melfane.
Thank you. Yes. The satisfaction of that line, and then like the way it's almost Matt waking up in the tower levels of like tastiness that she finally gets this fucking delicious meal and we get to read about it, right? Like,
yeah. And like the only things that, like, she has a normal diet now, right? She is on a strict control of her weight gain. She can't consume alcohol, and she is already self-regulating her consumption of caffeine. Right? But like other than that, she's good to go. And it's like, this is so practical.
Also, don't forget to read and sing to the baby in the womb. I can see a difference. These are all very actually good advice for people who are pregnant, right?
Yeah, this is much more modern advice than what she's been going through up until now.
Right. It's literally been medieval advice and I mean that on every sense of the word.
Right. We just hopped several centuries forward because apparently one woman in the entire city is competent and everyone else is not, and she somehow just knows these things with complete confidence in herself. It's amazing, magical. But she also has the hilarious line about how, like, you know, no one would ever want herbs or midwifing from a man. That's a ridiculous concept. And it's just like staring in modern medicine. Like, it's just full of men.
Well, I feel like everybody else did their own research, you know? Like, she's the only one who's, like, actually educated about this kind of stuff. Everyone else is just like, oh, this is what I heard.
But so Elayne couldn't get a midwife from the education facility? Where are the other graduates?
I don't, you know, it drives me nuts. Like, yeah, right? Yeah.
Where's the yellow Arja?
Where's the yellow Aja?
Yeah.
Where is the yellow Aja
Dude,
maternity unit?
No, the yellow Aja, there's no use in channeling around pregnancy. Like, pregnancy makes it hard to channel. I'm guarantee you the yellow Aja does not study pregnancy in the slightest. Never has, never will. I don't get pregnant.
Well, hopefully after Elayne has these kids, she ends up bringing that petition to the yellows at some point in the fourth age, being like, bitches, get your shit together.
Like, because there's nothing to heal. There's nothing that's wrong.
Yeah, there's
with
no
you when you're
uncomfortable
pregnant.
or negative symptoms that come with pregnancy at all. There's definitely no issues
None.
like during or after birth that could possibly require magical healing.
It's 100%
Yeah, no
natural.
woman's
and
ever
natural
died in
things cannot be
childbirth.
healed. No, never. I can't see why the yellow Aja would be
Yeah, we
interested.
definitely don't need medicine involved. God, why is there so much patriarchy in my matriarchal magic system?
Dark friends.
Okay.
Seriously.
Not a single green has ever got pregnant.
Nope, the fuck Acha has no idea how conception works.
Because Heartleaf tea is perfect and no one has ever forgotten to take it.
Oh, and we haven't over-harvested it to extinction, and it doesn't lose efficacy over time.
I mean, we are living in a magical world, Aradia, so might as well run with it. like truly the fantasy aspects of this book are based around pregnancy and contraception.
Yeah. Me and my angry uterus are just going to turn the page on that.
Oh, yeah. That was a great time to be talking about that stuff.
Yeah. Anyway. Oh, yeah, there's this other thing here about how Brigida had decided to give up drinking as an extension of prenatal health, which Elayne is like, pretty sure that doesn't count, but it's clear that you're drinking too much for your own health, so we're not going to push the logic of that argument very far.
Yeah, you know, it to me, it's very much the husband stops drinking to support the wife type situation, right? It's obviously not going to affect the baby, but it's good for her.
Right.
To not be drinking and to not, like
whatever excuse you need, it's fine.
Yeah, it's fine. It's fine. It's fine.
I do like how the midwife has told them not to read anything frivolous, just histories.
Yeah, you have to only read dry things because it really matters. Like, you know, their personality will be shaped by what you read them, which is like, that might be getting a little old wives' tale-y again at this point. I think just the act of reading to the child is sufficient. I don't think it matters what you read.
I also think there's something very self-aware about that, right? She did not want to direct them to frivolous tales. right? Frivolous Tales like The Wheel of Time, right? Which is a fantasy.
Or even in
this
World,
whole
like The
idea
Sword, the Heart, and the Flame, or whatever. Like that book that always gets mentioned, the romance novel.
Travels of Jane Farstrider.
Right, yeah.
I wonder if that's considered, because like everyone reads it, but I think it's very much like pop fiction, right? It's not supposed to be elevated prose.
Yeah.
It's not a classic. That's why I wonder if how she would classify the Travels of Jane Farstrider. Like, which category would that end up in?
I think she'd call it frivolous. Like, maybe not for an older, like, person, like, you know, in, like, their middle school or teen years, you know? Mm-hmm. But certainly not for babies. Babies have to only get read, like, you know, 600 level university grade histories with, like, excruciating battle deployments. That's the only suitable thing for a fetus to hear.
Jane Farstrider's Harry Potter, yeah. Which, I mean, there's the debate, right? Is that good fiction or not?
No.
Yeah, no. So what I've been reading is you definitely don't want to talk to babies in baby talk. You want to use English words, but also you generally want to put, like, lilting, hot, like you want to, I'll be like, be very happy and very emotional and emotive with your words. Like, that's very important. So, like, the putting on the baby talk can be, you don't want to go, ba, 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 but you can say, oh, hi, baby, you're very cute today. Nice to see you, right? Like, that seems to be helpful. So, anyway, not that I'm doing research on children or anything.
Just imagine how people have always learned. It's a monkey see, monkey do. Do you speak in gibberish? Right. No. Then don't teach your children gibberish. That would be my assumption.
Mm-hmm. But children also, like, they tune out if you talk like a lawyer.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's boring.
You need to have some entertainment. It's boring. You need to also, like, entertain them, right? Like, you need to get their attention.
Time passes at a different rate when you're single-digit age, right? Like, a unit of time is just different.
Yeah, it's going so fast these days. My God. When you said you started editing the podcast 5 years ago, I was like, that's a nice joke. You're kidding, right? And you're like, no, it's been that long. And I was just like, no. I literally could not. My mind took more than 30 seconds to fully comprehend that you weren't shitting me.
Yeah, it's a problem.
It was before the pandemic, and that was 4 years ago now.
Right? Yeah. No, that's the thing. Is like, there's
not to be 5 years ago.
The pandemic was last year, right? Like, that to me is still like, it just I can't.
Life's gonna go back to normal any minute now. I swear.
Any minute now. Yeah, it's really gonna be over. So. Yeah, sense of time is all kind of fucky, which yeah. I can't. I don't know if it's a result of getting older or a result of the pandemic or
yes,
you know, just it's fuck.
Because it's always been universally agreed the older you get, the faster time goes. But then everyone also agrees that the pandemic fucked time. So
right. You know. and at the same time, it feels like I've been with Never my entire life, even though it's a post-pandemic thing.
Well, that's just marriage.
That's it. I can't imagine life without her, you know?
Yeah, that's
good.
Ideal. There's another thing here that Trakand inside the house calls itself the keystone that holds Andor together, which for anyone who isn't a stupid American nerd like me, Pennsylvania is the Keystone State. I did my fourth grade report on Pennsylvania, and it's the Keystone State.
I live there.
Well, my stepdad's from there, so that, of course, was the state I had to pick. I had to learn about his state. But yeah, it just kind of reminded me of Pennsylvania. I was like, is Robert Jordan saying that Trakand is Pennsylvania? Like, what? Okay, sure. Why not?
I think it's more just like they consider themselves the most important foundational house. Right? I think it's just more about arrogance and like, we're the best. Like, of course we get to be the keystone, the most important stone in the arch.
Well, their symbol is literally the keystone. Like it's and also the keystone is the opposite of the foundation, like architecturally speaking.
That's you know, well, fuck. Yes.
I'm just saying, a foundation footing is a very different piece of masonry.
I know, but the cornerstone and the keystone, okay, fine.
Sorry, I had to brown Aja at you.
No, you're right. You're right. That's why I can't be angry about you. But you know what I meant.
Yes, we did all know what you meant. I'm just being pedantic because that's why they pay me the big bucks.
But yeah, the keystone is sort of the thing at the top that holds everything else in place. That does work pretty well as a queen monarch analogy.
It does. It does. My dad had a really cool like meditative toy like of little stones that you could actually build an arch with a keystone in it, and it was like a challenge to make it work. And as a kid, I enjoyed that a lot and really enjoyed playing with, like, if I can get it up, then the keystone holds it together. I was like, 6. It was a very cool concept. So I have a fondness for keystones just as a concept because it's like physics, friction. It's so cool.
And cornerstones usually have like the inscription of like the building built in, 1852 on the corner of it.
Yeah.
Which is, and then it's just the cornerstone, building is the most prominent one. So I guess that's why it's a cornerstone.
That is the idea.
But it doesn't really provide any, it's not like that's the foundation. If you pull that out, the whole thing would collapse.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. Keystones are cool because they are so singular, right? You need like,
Right.
however many different corners to make your building, potentially 4, maybe more. You need however many stones to make the foundation, to make the base. But right up there at the top for the keystone, it's just the one, just the pin and the scissors.
And like you need all this support structure. It's what's cool about arches, right? Is you need all the support structure to put them up. Once you drop the keystone in, all of a sudden they're self-supporting.
Right? Yeah, it's very cool.
And then you can take away all the support that goes into them. Yeah. A complete arch is a kind of magical thing. It's what the Romans built their empire on, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that and level roads.
We still got them here.
Yeah, it's so cool.
That and aqueducts, not quite level roads.
Yeah, but very specifically at a particular angle, not level.
Very specifically not level. Yeah. This magic ability to make water flow at a very specific rate by knowing exactly where a level is and exactly how slightly off you are from that.
We've also got, so Elayne has musicians playing to her baby because she doesn't have a boombox. There are no CDs. There's no recorded music. This is a world where the only music you get is music people play live, which like I feel, I'm the kind of person that lives with headphones on all the time, mostly listen to podcasts, but sometimes I go through music phases and like it's something that's easy to take for granted, recorded music, but like,
oh yeah,
we as a species have not had access to readily recorded music you can just play at the touch of a button for very long. Like most of human history, if you want music, you need a musician to like choose to make music for you or to make it for yourself. Like that's it. That's the only way to get music. Like the concept of just having all this recorded music is so recent. And Elayne does not have that. I mean, she has found that one Turan Grial with music, but she hasn't figured out how to work it. So,
I feel it's because that's why you have like groups of women or, mostly women back in the day who sat around and sang. And I guess men on the like chain gang.
Yeah, no, singing to work is very normal. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And I feel like we don't really have that anymore.
No, you don't sing together. You don't keyboard in unison at your office, right? Because that's what the songs are for, is to help synchronize your movements as you're like rowing or whatever. It doesn't work if you're all making phone calls to different IT departments.
Yeah, at best, you've got a little bit of disco music playing on in the background if you work in retail or something like that you all, jam out to at the same time. But it's usually terrible. And if you're on a work site, it's really bad, like 80s rock. Constantly.
Oh yes, Bob FM.
Yeah.
I am very familiar. All right, so they arrive, the lords and ladies. Mr. Harford comes in to say, the lords and ladies are here. Let's go have an informal meeting. And we get a lot of descriptions of what an informal meeting is, where everyone just has one servant and they've got their nice clothes, but not their super nice clothes. And
right.
It's a lot of scene setting, people coming in, glaring, sniffing, standing together, standing apart. The nobles arrive. We're doing that.
And then lots of lists of nobles, right? Like lists and lists and lists of nobles. Yeah,
a reminder of the big, scary stained glass queens staring down at Elayne, that whole vibe.
Yeah, this whole Elorian's going to be provocative. She warns everybody not to let Elorian provoke anybody. So, like, calm the fuck down when Elorian walks in and is insulting, right? We don't want to start a war over that.
Right, don't respond to her. She's trying to control you. Don't rise to the bait.
Yeah, and the room matters, right? The Dana's pointing out that the room that they choose to meet in...
It's the throne room. It's the throne room. And this is where the broken window is.
Right.
It's dripping into a bucket. Plonk, plonk. Plonk.
You don't think the broken window? You think the broken window is referencing the Waygate and not her like? So, all right. So here's where I'm going with the analogy. Right, Elayne is all angry, in the beginning, and the storm and the thunder punctuates her words. And so if the storm is her anger, what's the wind? The window is somehow...
I think, honestly, the window is probably more a metaphor for her fractured support amongst the nobles. Like, that she needs to repair this relationship. There is a broken relationship with Elayne specifically that is, like, causing damage to the structure, and she needs to repair that. I think that the Waygate is, maybe stretching it a bit farther, but it's not entirely wrong. I mean, it can work, but I think that more realistically, because this is happening with that as a backdrop, that's probably the more obvious analogy.
Right. And that maybe her anger isn't helping the situation.
I mean, she wins the conversation, so...
True.
Yeah, Pants, exactly. Akin to Egwene's chair, yes.
That's literally the point I was about to make. It's like Egwene's chair, and if you've got the bucket there, drip, 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 drip. In politics, if you've got that drip, drip, drip of negativity and brokenness, eventually the person at the top will come down. So Elayne's got to fix that there and then mend the relationships, as it were. Have a bit of a feast and a play.
Yeah, let's just throw a party.
Get people on
eat some
side.
pizza, watch a movie. But also she's able to, show them that she's not sitting in the throne, that the throne is something she still respects as something she does not possess yet. And would you please give me the throne for fuck's sake already?
Right. She's sitting at the foot of it, not claiming it. There's a lot of symbolism with the thrones and the way Rand had the dragon throne and he had the lion throne up on a pedestal for a while, but behind him, it was a prize. Yeah, a lot of symbolism around the throne for sure.
Yeah. And then Elayne, makes sure to insult Elaine's allies by saying, they're all children or Aramilla's leavings. It's very insulting. Again, just trying to get a rise out of them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The number of insults that she comes up with in the next, so many, right? Just very insulting. And that's why I was like, what is she doing? It never really made a lot of sense to me why she is someone who seemed to be a supporter, but I guess, it's
just emotions. It's just Andorran stubbornness. I really think that's what it is. It's just meant to showcase this is their national character.
Yeah, I think she's also trying to test the resolve of the others as well. Not for any particular reason. She's just there saying, "Oh, if I try and insult people as much as possible, I want to see who snaps and see if there's any doubt in anybody else."
Right. Yeah, she's kind of like, this is my role now, is just to test everyone's resolve for this situation as we move forward. I will be the last one to be convinced. That is my role at this point. Got it.
Because it seems like, they ask a couple of questions to Elayne. She answers them in a pretty, succinct way. And they're like, okay, we're good. Right? That's all we needed to hear is how are you going to handle those situations?
Yeah. I mean, they need to come in letting Elayne know what their concerns are, and Elayne already has carved out the space to let those concerns rage freely, so that way none of the others have to say anything potentially insulting. Elayne can say whatever she wants, right? And it's going to be listened to and politely ignored, rather than taken seriously.
Yeah, I have a lot of trouble with these sections. I'm just I don't really get it. I mean, I get it, but I don't.
But the reason the rest of them are here is not to support Elayne's hurt ego. It's to talk about the Borderlanders. They're like, we're here to offer truce because we think the Borderlanders are a real threat. And then she says, appreciate that, but I actually have it under control. Elayne gets more ammunition to be like, how dare you act like a queen when you're not queen? She's like, no, I have authority as an Aes Sedai, lest you forget. I could be super queen, just so you know. We could have a super Andor queen.
Super queen.
You really want me to not be super queen for Andor, Elayne? Really? And all the rest of them are like, shit, she has magic.
So this is where she reveals her manipulation of the Borderlanders. And I think that really is what wins her their support, is when she's like, oh yeah, I've manipulated them to cross without violence. She's basically, what else could you have done? What else would you have done? And she doesn't have a better answer.
Right. She did the very martial arts correct thing, which is to yes and just step out of the way and let them move through rather than trying to push them back per se. And yeah, I think it is kind of, they need to see that she has political savvy to lead them through a turbulent time. And Elayne has really been pumping up the she's not fit to rule angle. So they really need to be like, show your work. let us see how things go on under the hood behind the curtain. She's like, well, yeah, you're Andorran noble, so I can tell you I completely lied without lying to the Borderlanders. Like, that's our little secret here, because we're in the cool kids club. And they're like, all right, yeah, no, Elorian really does just have a stick up her ass about this. Like, Elayne's fine.
But then they do give her the impossible question is, what do you do with the Black Tower?
Right, which is kind of a trick question to be, again, how can you handle an impossible situation?
Because no one can do anything with that. And then none of them have any answer to it either.
No, yeah, if one of them come back and been like, well, why don't you appeal to the White Tower for, so she would have had an answer, right? Because obviously the White Tower isn't equipped to handle the Black Tower at this point. But yeah, that is the point where someone could have pushed back and said like, well, I have an idea. And if they'd had a better idea, maybe they could have stolen her sport. So I do think that was a moment of vulnerability for her, but also a moment of honesty.
Right, that's the thing, is the honest answer is it's like with the corridors switching around, right? Her telling Dyelin, I hear you and there's nothing I can do, was enough to ease Dylan's fear. It's the same thing. She's like, yeah, the Black Tower's an impossible problem and we're just going to have to hold tight. And to have her say that and acknowledge it honestly is reassuring, because there's no other answer.
I'm going to remind them that they are subject to the laws. I can't enforce those laws, but they are subject to them. Yeah, no, that's a good way to put it.
And then they're all like, yeah, it's silly to waste Andorrans on Andorrans when we could be unifying in the face of the clearly impending apocalypse. So all of us houses are going to stand for Turkand and then glare at Elorian until she flounces out, basically.
And so then immediately after that, she gets 5 houses, right, that stand for her.
Bam, bam, bam.
So that's 5 onto her 9. That gives her 14 out of the 18.
Yep. She's won handily at this point. She is solidly ready for her coronation.
And then she gets a almost confirmation from Elorian. She gets it. She kind of gets a tacit, yeah, okay, I'll follow you to Tarmageddon, but
yeah. Yeah, some of them joined for Dyelin, and then, Elorian says, I will follow the country. I will put country over party, but I'm not in your fucking party.
Right. Well, it's like, yes, but she's now your queen because she's been elected, right? Like, she's over the threshold.
Yeah, she's going to accept the election, but she's going to whine about it on her own time. but she will be fully in support when it comes to fighting the literal last battle, because, like, she is a reasonable person. She's not actually an idiot.
It's interesting to think about these as like, just as bitter as our elections get, and as think about like the only way to have an election is if the person in power dies.
Yeah.
I mean, oof.
Like, it just, the stakes are so high. The stakes are so high in that condition.
Yeah, at least ours come around like clockwork. You can very accurately predict. Whereas, when you're waiting on someone to die, it's like, it could be tomorrow when they fall off a horse or eat a poisoned lima bean, or it could be in 60 years, right? Like, you have no idea.
Or in 260 years in this case.
Right? Yeah, which is just like, I mean, you thought Queen Victoria reigned for a long time, right? Like,
right, yeah. No, I mean, there's a reason Elayne and Queen Elizabeth II have some parallels, and it's like,
no, the first,
because they've been around. I mean,
the red and white and the
did
ruffles.
I say the second?
Yeah.
Oh no, I'm talking about the one who's around now, or was around like 10 years ago.
Okay, that is the second. I've always compared it to the first myself, because the clothing, because I'm just a very clothing oriented person.
I mean, timey-wimey. See, that's where I think of her mother is more the first.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Okay. We're just skipping all the intervening. Yeah. Okay. Mm-hmm. Sure. I'll take it.
And she's the one who's elected very young at the verge of a war, right? Helped lead it. Lived for a long time, right? Like, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. No, I hadn't thought about that, but sure.
I said what I said.
Yeah. No. I think you're correct.
Right, guys, I'm gonna have to go now. My dog's coming over. He wants to go.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much.
This was a long recording. Thank you for dropping in.
No, it's been a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
And John, really, thank you so much for everything you've done for us. It's really been a pleasure having you and a pleasure knowing you for all these years. Right?
Yeah, it's been brilliant. I'm glad to see your all the pictures of your wedding as well. It's fantastic to see you both.
Appreciate it.
All right. Good night.
All right. Have a great night.
Yeah. Cheers, guys. Bye.
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 All right. We really only have the readout, I think.
That's really, yeah, no, we are at the final paragraph at this point. Yeah.
All right. So yeah, I will just read us out in this lovely fourth wall breaking Jordanian style paragraph. Behind the Lion of Andor, but not a word about behind Elayne Trakand. Nearly half her support was suspect one way or another. Jared Sarand was still on the loose with not an inconsiderable force, and she would have trouble from Elorian eventually. It was never this way in stories. In stories, everything was always wrapped up neatly by the end. Real life was much messier. Still, she had the throne at last. There was still the coronation, but that was a formality now. As she led the procession from the Grand Hall, chatting with Luan and Pelavar, thunder rolled overhead like martial drums beating the march for Tarman Gaiden. How long before Andor's banners had to march to the last battle?
Just in stories, I think this is even simple for, I think he's being like, yeah, I know this is kind of wrapped up really quick, but...
Right. But it's not neat and clean for the people in it, even if it feels that way to you, the reader.
Right. So I kind of love is that little fourth breaking. Also, like Jared being out in the wilderness, he's taken care of by a bubble of evil, and then his men rebel. Remember, that's a really good...
Jared Sarand dies alone, whimpering tied to a tree, left alone by his men in the woods. It's very sad.
So, do not worry about him coming back to fight Elayne.
Yeah, he's a non-issue.
Yeah, everything's AI.
Yeah.
No, for sure. I'm in some Facebook groups of podcast editors, just kind of like, hanging out on the edges of like the cool kids party, like trying to like pick up some tips, and like the discussions around all the different AI tools that people are using, and like it can auto transcribe your stuff, and then you can edit the transcript and it'll automatically edit the audio. Just like all in one package, which also is your recording package, which is also your publishing package. Just like,
Yeah. Yeah, Adobe have just rolled out something called Adobe Podcast, and that's exactly what that does.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I think it's still in testing at the moment, like beta testing, but they're keen to get it pushed. We've just rolled, not my department, but so there's a new technology at my attendance recording technology at the university, and they've helped people get used to how to use it. They created some videos with different, like, this is how you use the app, this is how academics use it, but they didn't use people, they used AI. Yeah. The people look really quite peculiar and sound a bit strange. It's the uncanny valley type situation.
Yeah.
God, you don't need this. This is not what we asked for.
It's like those people, what are they called? When like the Dark Friend Social, where you've got the serving people who aren't quite that's the one. Aren't quite people.
Yeah, and they like know what you want like ahead of time, and they forget everything instantly. Yeah, that's very much
that's terrifying. Yeah, very good call.
Artists always predict the worst things that we're actually going to do. It always gets predicted in art first.
Because they're often looking backwards and then abstracting it, and somehow that also predicts the future, because abstract past repeats.
Well, plus we then tend to invent things we imagined.
Yes.
Then that's the other side, right? It's like plate tectonics. Is it a push or is it a pull? The answer is yes.
Always goes back to geology.
Yeah. Well, for me, yeah. For me, I was like, "Where's my transporter? Come on!" Until I can transport matter, I don't. No, But yeah, there's a lot of stuff that's inspired in space by Star Trek, as much as we.
Yeah, like we keep building to that ideal that we've created. So I'm holding out hope for transporters, is all I'm saying.
Nonsense, as I type on my glass pad with buttons on it that we can... Oh, wait.
Yeah. And if the fashion still included vests, it would all fit in your vest pocket, just like Tesla intended.
And the further we get into the modern era, the more we realise that the UIs that they used in Star Trek just weren't that good.
They really aren't. That is one of the funny things about rewatching Star Trek is like, ooh, what is happening? I don't think I would like that interface.
And yet somehow the more I get into the future, the more I believe that they get a shitty interface because it was paid for by the lowest bidder and someone who didn't know what they were doing. I'm like, oh yeah, that makes sense, right? Like well, I guess not in the utopia that is Star Trek, but you know, yeah.
But honestly, the worst part is that it beeps all the time. Like I get you need that for TV reasons, like you need it to respond, but like I don't let my devices make noise at me. Like I would go insane on one of those ships. Anything you need done, there has to be a beep, boop, boop, boop. No, I can't. I cannot.
So I design touch panels for work, as in user interfaces that make projectors come on, that kind of thing. And when I've been there about 12 years now, and the technology that was there when I started, relatively new touch panel type technology, and you didn't have a choice but for the buttons to make noises. And yeah, well, they all had built-in speakers, and they didn't have tactile touch like you see some people using on their mobiles if they ever hit a button. But yeah, as it's gone on, that's become less and less. People have realised that, no, you don't want a button making a beep every time you press it. And yeah, the technology went from mandatory beeps to now, okay, we've done that. We've gone through that phase. We've gone past Star Trek.
Now, no beeps.
Yeah. Although Athlon in chat is pointing out that the noises are helpful for blind people, for sure.
Oh, very much.
If you don't have sight and you have to rely on sound more, absolutely, for sure. That again, just give us options. Just don't make mandatory noises.
Right,
like,
right.
Allow me to choose. If I had to be on a starship and it beeped at me, I would freak out. But that would just be me.
Having the noises on my keyboard when I'm typing does help me so much type faster. Do I have them off? Yes. Absolutely. I refuse to listen to it. Does it help me type faster? Yeah, it would. It would if I left them on. But I can't stand the noise. And typing in public, sitting next to somebody, I feel like is just annoying, right? Like,
yeah. I'm about ready to upgrade my keyboard because it's so loud. It's so loud.
I'm waiting for the days when we can implant audio, just headphones into our ears, so we never have to take them out and put them in, and then we can
right
just
into
have
the auditory nerve.
The auditory nerve, right? And then we don't have to worry about any of that. We can just have those sounds going, and only we can hear them. It'll be great.
A couple of the guys at work have got those. I forgot what they call them now. They've been walking around for the last couple of weeks because they've got these things off Amazon, which are headphones, but then they don't go in your ears. They sit just in front of your ears.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
The back of your
The
neck.
bone conduction.
Yeah, the bone conductions.
That's the word. So
I love
to
those
the wife
things.
about them.
Yeah.
But they just walk around with them looking like they're Cybermen or something. Just.
Yep.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah. I keep waiting for them to turn to me and just like, you will be assimilated. And I'm like, okay, yeah, fair. Hey, give me my headphones. I'm gonna put those on. It's like,
yeah. No, I really, really like those until I got addicted to wearing these. I lived in those for like a couple of years. I love those things.
That's what Apple Intelligence actually means.
Oh no.
But yeah, I guess I should apologize for not having an episode out last week. I did have to work. My schedule got rearranged for training because I had to be there for the trainer's schedule, not my schedule. And I didn't properly plan ahead of time to record an extra episode. So yes, despite being out for a month, I immediately came back for a week and then went out again for another week, as it tends to happen. So very sorry about that. But today we're back with, more than two.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've got a guest, a very, very longtime fan of the podcast guest here, because we're going to, once we get through the first chapter, we're doing a doubleheader today.
Yes.
Then we will be getting to some kick-ass Elayne politicking. And this is also what Visit Andor on Twitter is.
Yes.
Is the like
That's
you're
me.
a real Camelyn stan, Elayne stan, and you were like, I want to do some Elayne chapter stuff. So the importance of Dyelin seemed like a good one
Yeah.
to get you in on.
The cinching of the crown.
This one, well, yeah. Obviously, the cinching, the big moment came in the previous chapter, but this one is the moment where there's no barriers left. Yeah, I visit Andor. I've been doing for 6 years now.
Wow. I love that channel.
That is really
that's
nice.
rad. It's fun. Just like random little like ads for like local spas or like restaurants or whatever. It's great. Tourism department. It's awesome.
I feel like it adds a lot to like the world that is Twitter of time to be like, oh yeah, there's a guy advertising for like Camelyn. Like it's one of those things that's like just goes on and you're like, wait, this actually, I should realize that there's more work going into this than I realized, because it does just feel like a normal ad in the world that you would encounter on a day-to-day basis. Like, oh no, this is great.
Yeah.
That's why I love doing it. It's just making it like doing the travel updates and the traffic reports of people coming in and out of Camelyn. It's just want to make it seem so naturalized and normal that I don't even care if I get that many likes. I think the most likes I've ever had on something is like 20 or something. But I don't care about that. I just love making these little things. To be honest, I haven't done it much for the last couple of months, but I should really get back into that.
Yeah, well, Twitter being what it is, like,
that's a big part of it.
It is, yeah. I have a hard time logging onto it, I'll admit. It's
yeah. But it's great. Like we've got our advertising, for Camelyn. Then there's also the tabloid with Wheel Weekly News. There's just all these little things that people do that just make that. I wish Twitter was less of a hellscape because, yeah.
I've had fake arguments with Weekly Wheel News on Twitter before.
That's great.
Like, don't publish that about Camelyn, please. It's not nice.
That's so correct. That's so perfect.
The government telling off the press.
Right? Well, I mean, what are tablets for if not to spread salacious lies?
Exactly. And you're like, no, the Crown would prefer you didn't do that, sir. It's wonderful.
I do find myself I do find the channel as a PR for Andor. I do find it defending Gawain more than it should do.
Oh, God.
Well, family is family.
On my re-listen, I'm realizing Towers of Midnight has just a lot of Gawain and Galad chapters. And I'm just like, oh, that's why I don't like this one as much as the other two. I'm just like this. I keep, booting up the audiobook going, oh, it's a Gawain chapter. And like the disappointment in my soul is real. And I shouldn't expect that, but it's there.
So we're going to go through that book fast then.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you punch up the Encyclopedia What and see when different character chapter arcs end and then begin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And his unfortunately ends early or begins early and ends late. Yeah.
He's always there. Like an unflushable.
Just floating to the surface. Elayne keeps hitting that lever. And Gawain keeps popping back up again. It's like, I flushed you so many times. I put you on the front line and you come floating back up again. Jesus Christ. I'm still going by my theory, though, that, everybody loves he got a concussion because Matt hit him on the head, right? And that's when his behavior changed. I'm going with Missana brainwashed him to be loyal to the Merrilin. And it's only when he heard that Egwene was Merrilin that he could leave Elayne's side and go to Egwene. And that's why he could never leave and go to Elayne. Sorry, Egwene. Why he could leave it. Egwene and Elayne got those names mixed up again. Sorry about that. But yeah, once he heard that Egwene was Merrilin, he could go to her side, but he could never leave and go to Elayne's side because of Missana's compulsion. Yeah,
that's a good argument. You could also say that he's too young for his own good, and he's torn between different things. He's the head of the younglings, which he doesn't really care about. He's the first prince, which again he doesn't really care about.
That's my problem, is he doesn't seem to care about any of those things, and but he does. He should, but I think it has to. That's why I'm like, oh, I think compulsion's involved. Right? Is like his values are out of whack. Either that, or we could give him his own agency.
Yeah, you don't want to do that. It is a difficult one with him because you can also see parts. You can see parts of. It's really difficult to see what Jordan was trying to get out with him, and then how. I don't know how Sanderson wrote him. There's no clues about how he's supposed to go or his arc, and you can see elements of Galad in him. You can see elements of Morghese in him. You can see elements of Elayne in him, and it's not a good mixture.
No. No, this is where I really think Jordan is this. He's like, I'm a discovery writer, and he discovered he didn't like Gawain. Like, I really, I think that's like he wrote this character and didn't really know what to do with him and went, well, I kind of hate this guy. I'm going to write him like a dick, you know? Like, it's very much like, this is what my character would do vibes from Gawain, right?
Yeah.
Like,
it's like soup's good, soda's good, chocolate's good. You put them together, it's not so great.
Oh, man. Speak for yourself.
You're the cook.
I'm just saying. Okay, never mind.
Aradia, what was the food like at the wedding?
It was delicious. Though the cake definitely was what stood out the most.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, brilliant.
Yeah. The fantastic cheesecake was definitely the standout item. But the rest of the food was acceptable.
Yeah. I have so much leftover taco meat. We've been giving away gallon bags of meat to people. Like, because we've been freezing. We just had so much left over. We put it all into these gallon Ziploc bags and put it in the freezer. And we had something like 12 or 13 Ziploc bags of meat.
Wow.
Left over.
Really somehow misexpected people's consumption. Because everyone came. It's not like you didn't have people that were there.
So it was partially overbuying, right? Because we want to make sure we had enough. And it's partially the place we went gives you an insane amount of meat per taco. And I think it just like people weren't taking that much meat. Like normally when you get those tacos from this place, they are stuffed full. And people were putting like a little bit of meat on their things. And like, so I think it's just like, and people, I don't know.
I remember Brandon told me that him and Neil kept looking for more rice because people were taking a reasonable amount of rice and there wasn't that much rice and they just kept finding more and more meat. And it was just like meat on meat on meat. And they were like both very confused. These like two tall, lanky men just being like, why is there so much meat? So that makes sense. Yeah,
it was just, they weren't really meant to be rice tacos. These are like street tacos that are supposed to be like meat with a little bit of onions and cilantro on them. Like the rice was really a side. Like,
that memo was not communicated to the people.
Yeah. So, not everything went perfectly, sure, right. But like the food was delicious. The food was really good. And everything else went really well. And I just got distracted and off topic.
So
I can talk about my wedding all day. Let's talk about the book.
Thank you for listening to the Wheel of Time Spoilers podcast. Please rate and review us on your podcast app and consider supporting us on Patreon for ad-free episodes. WoTSpoilers is a production of Fox and Raven Media. For more podcasts from Fox and Raven Media, visit our website at foxandravenmedia.com.